He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Babies have such innocence. They're so harmless, so cute, so lovable. It's easy to see why the Lord said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not forbid them, for of such is the kingdom of heaven." Little children have innocence because they don't think from deeper motives. For they don't yet know what is good and bad or what is true and false to think from them. Therefore, they don't have any plans of their own, nor any design from a deliberate motive, so they are without any purpose of evil. They do not have any self-interest acquired from love of self and of the world. They do not credit anything to themselves. All that they receive, they attribute to their parents. They are content with the little things that are given to them as gifts. They do not worry about their food and clothing, and are not anxious about the future. They do not pay regard to the world and covet many things on account of it. They love their parents, their nursemaids, and their companions, and play with them in a state of innocence. They allow themselves to be guided. They listen and obey. In other words, little children have no expectations and no sense of entitlement. Instead, they are willing to follow, and they feel gratitude for all they receive. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. We can see why the Lord said, "Unless you are converted and become as little children, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven." Later on, when we grow up, this good, innocent, and peaceful state of early childhood departs from us little by little. And insofar as we are introduced into the world, we enter into its pleasures and its delights, and so into evils. And the heavenly things, or the good qualities of early childhood, start to be dispersed. It seems as though we gradually lose our innocence as we get older. Yet, in fact, all these states are so preserved in us by the Lord that not the least of them is lost. Every one of our states, from our infancy to extreme old age, not only remains in the other life, but also returns. The Lord stores up these good qualities within us, and they become the starting point for our future spiritual development. In this way, the Lord is providing for our spiritual life, making us lie down in green pastures and leading us beside still waters. As little children, we are free of expectations, but we change. We get a clearer sense of what we want from life and what we expect from other people. These changes in our lives are reflected in Nebuchadnezzar's dream about a statue with a golden head. King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream and wanted to know its meaning. Most of us have wondered what our future will be or what our dreams mean. We have an inkling about the future, perhaps even some dreams about what we want to do, and we want to know more. How will things turn out? Will I be okay? Perhaps someone we love dies, and we want to know if they are all right. We would like to talk with them again. Just as Nebuchadnezzar turned to his astrologers and fortune tellers for understanding, many people today turn to psychics, fortune tellers, astrologers, or mediums to seeking to find answers about the supernatural and the future. Trusting psychics for spiritual knowledge is risky. According to New Church teachings, spirits tell very tall tales and they lie. When spirits begin to speak with a person, one must take care not to believe them at all, for almost everything they say they have made up, and they are lying. Often people want to know the future, believing that knowledge of the future would give them power and wealth, or at least a sense of confidence and safety. They may not realize that sure knowledge of the future may actually be harmful to us because it can take away our freedom. The Lord knows that hope for the future is better than certainty about the future, because sure knowledge would change our future from something that we participate in and help to create to something we passively watch happen with no investment in the outcome. Hope for the future encourages us to have intentions that may bear good fruit. Knowing the future would simply lead to a sense of entitlement and an expectation that everything will be given to us without any effort on our part. It seems that it was because Nebuchadnezzar did not trust his fortune tellers that he asked them to tell not only the interpretation of the dream, but also the dream itself. And yet Nebuchadnezzar showed his despotic character by commanding that his astrologers and magicians should be cut in pieces if they could not tell the meaning of the dream. Nebuchadnezzar was demanding and expected everyone to do exactly as he wanted. As Daniel and his friends, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, were among the wise counselors who advised King Nebuchadnezzar, they too were to be killed for not telling Nebuchadnezzar about the dream, but Daniel pleaded for more time so that he could ask the Lord for answers. Then he and his friends prayed, and the answer was revealed to Daniel in a vision that night. Daniel and his friends were not magicians, soothsayers, or astrologers looking for answers from spirits, stars, or secret rituals. Instead, they went directly to God in prayer, knowing that God knows all things and could tell them whatever he wanted them to know. They probably knew what Isaiah had said a century earlier. And when they say to you, "Seek those who are mediums and wizards who whisper and mutter," should not a people seek their God? Should they seek the dead on behalf of the living? To the law and the testimony, if they do not speak according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. So Daniel spoke with King Nebuchadnezzar to give him the answer from God. "The secret which the king has demanded, the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, and the soothsayers cannot declare to the king," he said. "But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days." Apparently, the Lord wanted Nebuchadnezzar to recognize that Daniel was his prophet. The Lord gave the king a dream that Daniel could explain, so that the king would know that he could trust Daniel to speak for God. Daniel told the king what would be in the future, just as the Lord always tells us in his word what we need to know about our future, but tells us in a way that does not take away our freedom. That is, the Lord encourages us to focus on our intentions for the future, what we want to give, more than on our expectations from the future, what we want to get. Daniel explained Nebuchadnezzar's dream about a statue with a head of gold, silver breast, bronze belly and thighs, iron legs, and feet of iron mixed with clay. Daniel said that each part of the statue represented a different kingdom, the gold head being Nebuchadnezzar, and the rest being kingdoms that would follow and would be inferior. On a deeper level, it is about the kingdoms of the Lord, the sequence of churches throughout the history of the human race. The head of gold represents the earliest religious era, the most ancient church, which in some myths is called the Golden Age. This was followed by the ancient church, or the Silver Age, then the Israelitish church in the Bronze Age, not the same kind of Bronze Age as when the actual use of bronze became widespread. And finally, the Christian church in the Iron Age. Each age had its purpose at the time. Each age was in some ways an advance, and in other ways a decline. In Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the statue was shattered by a stone that struck the feet of the rock and scattered its pieces. The stone then became a great mountain which filled the whole earth, representing a new kingdom and a new church that will endure forever, where the Lord, who is the rock, would be everywhere known and worshipped. The ages of gold and silver and bronze and iron are also the ages of our individual lives. Our personal golden age is the time of infancy and early childhood, when the Lord establishes in us innocence, peace, trust, and love for our parents and playmates. Our silver age is childhood, when our innocence fades a little and our minds soak up knowledge and rules and principles. In these ages, the Lord is nourishing us, helping us to grow in our knowledge and purpose. He is making us lie down in green pastures and leading us beside still waters, storing up remnants of innocence, charity, and knowledge from the Word. In our Bronze Age, as adults, we focus on work and usefulness, and then in old age we become again like a little child as we gradually let go of worldly life in preparation for eternal life in heaven. The pattern that the Lord revealed to Nebuchadnezzar, He reveals to all of us, letting us know in a general way the heavenly goal of life on earth and the sequence of states that will lead us there. We begin in innocence, and that innocence will decline until in old age it is renewed. In the meantime, each stage takes us a step further in the development of our ego, with increasing knowledge, ability, vision, and purpose, until we become as strong as iron, able to crush to pieces whatever stands in our way. We start our lives with no expectations, just an innocent willingness to trust our parents and receive what they give. As we grow, we become stronger and less flexible, and we become more focused on what we want and expect from life. Along the way, our ego, or sense of who we are and what we want, becomes more pronounced. At the same time, our expectations are often unfulfilled. Perhaps I didn't get the kind of job or career I wanted. Perhaps my spouse turned out to be much more difficult to live with than I expected. I thought I would have a better home and more friends, better health. Instead, my children made bad choices and people I loved were suddenly gone. Our expectations of life and our focus on what we want to get are just pictures that we dream up of what life will be. What eventually smashes those expectations is the rock of reality. What the Lord is doing in our lives is sure and solid and fills our lives, and it works through our intentions. Self-importance is replaced by self-actualization, that is, letting the Lord work in us. Expectations of how life treats us give way to intentions for how we treat life. Daniel was able to change the course of the king's life and the kingdom because his intentions were good. All he wanted was to protect the lives of his friends and all the wise people of the kingdom, and to trust that the reality the Lord gives us is greater than any expectations that we create for ourselves. Yet our destiny is not simply to build a splendid image of ourselves, but to come to the recognition that the Lord is everything and ego is nothing, except to the extent that it allows the Lord to work in us and through us. The rock that broke the images in pieces is the Lord, who works in our lives with a power far beyond anything we have from our own power and ego. Yet we can acknowledge that the Lord is everything good in our lives, and still have the feeling that the life the Lord gives us is the life that we are meant to live, the life that is our own, who we are and who we want to be. Amen.